All right, guys, we're back on Southeastern 16. Max Barr joins. It's Tuesday. That means SEC basketball off-season talk here at the
Come
channel.
on.
You guys know we've been doing
Come on.
that this off-season on Tuesdays. We give you a nice little second go-around either on Wednesdays or Thursdays for the members. And so, jumping back in, Max, Burning Questions Part 2, because we did Burning Questions Part 1 a month ago, and people kept saying, well, hold on a second. That wasn't enough questions for us. You didn't mention this team, this storyline, and all that. We said, all right, we're going to have to go for part 2. So we're back for seconds here with our burning questions. As you'll see, some of these will be a little bit more of the national focused questions as they relate to the SEC, but some will also be specific SEC based questions. So, as Chris says, it's a great day to be a Gator in his world. It just means more to Big Gator EJ. We got a new member before we even started the stream. Jessica has become a new member. Unbelievable start to Tuesday, and it just means more. Max.
Look at all the regulars in here already. Look at all of them jumping on in. Late July, not skipping a beat. You know who else isn't skipping a beat? Rick Barnes and the Vols. And you know what, Blake? I wanted to mention this. This is funny. So it's spelled. They got a new guy, right? They got a new guard from Israel. Spelled, Blake. Have you seen how it's spelled yet? Have you seen this new guy for the Vols?
I do not know off the top of my head the spelling.
Okay, it's spelled Ethan Berg, right? ETHAN. Ethan. You think Ethan, right? I thought Ethan. Nope. Aiton.
Oh yeah.
Aiton.
I like it.
They're messing with us already, Blake. We had Adu Thiero last year was just a fiasco. Yeah. Aiton Borg. Boy, not Berg either. So it's not Ethan Berg as it looked. Aiton Borg. What are we doing?
This is one of the most incredible conversations we've ever had to start a live stream.
Welcome to the league.
So, yeah, well, welcome to the league. So, I know Sam says he's 30 years old. Just for the record, he is 22. He's not 30, but he is 22 years old, from what I gather. So, yeah. Hey, that's a great way to get us started. We're going to talk about some Tennessee stuff here, but we will talk about him too, probably at some point, just because that is a focus we've had on Tennessee this offseason. So, with the Vols. All right.
I saw Ben McKee tweet that, and I was like, I got to bring it up.
Incredible. The one and only Zatorius is in here. Did I miss Kentucky talk yet? 2 minutes into the stream. You got to love the bit that's going on. But, yes, we understand. So, all right. Let's jump into some stuff here. And, again, remember, if you want to join the membership, you can. Jessica's already joined. You can, too. And we'll talk about our sponsors, our fine sponsors, here in just a second when we get to it. But, all right, let's jump into some burning questions here, Max. Right off the bat, as Max is ready to get started. I know he's excited for this one because we got some interesting burning questions. So, Max, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I'm excited for today's show, Blake. I've been telling you that for a few days now. I'm excited.
I know you are. All right,
I can
start with yours first
if you want. Yeah,
you start first because then I got an interesting one to follow it up with.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with a. Which one do you know? Which one did you have an idea of which one you wanted me to start with, or any of them?
The one you had at the top.
Oh, I don't know which one I had at the top. Oh, okay, yeah,
the number one on your list. Yeah.
Okay, so our good friend Bart, Mr. Torvik, one of my best friends. I think I've talked to him once in the past year, by the way.
Does he work in the garage too?
Probably. But Mr. Bart, Mr. Torvik, has 2 Big Ten teams ahead of the top SEC team in his preseason analytics. Florida, obviously, is the top SEC team. However, Mr. Torvik has both Michigan and Purdue ahead of Florida. So my first question, this is to the chat as well. Join in on the episode, folks. Michigan, better than the Gators. Buy or sell. Then also, Purdue, better than the Gators. Buy or sell. How do we feel about some early preseason analytics there, having two Big Ten teams who's going to be good this year? The Big Ten's going to be good, guys. Above Florida, though.
Well, if we go to what we always like to start with, the current national championship betting odds. If we go over to FanDuel, Purdue leads the way plus 900. Florida's plus 1,700. Michigan plus 1,900. So there is clearly a bit of a gap between Purdue and Florida.
Right.
I'd say one of the reasons for that, keep in mind, I don't think is a talent thing for Florida. I think it's the fact that winning back-to-back national championships is a hard thing to bet on. And so that is not a huge surprise to me that Florida would not simply be the number one team on this list. And yes, they had a few players exit. We've talked about that, but they've replaced them with some good talent too. I think Purdue, to me, is certainly a team. We talked about them before. I think you could certainly make the argument that, and it was just brought up by Chris in the chat. Like, I feel like when we talked about Purdue this offseason, when we talked about the biggest threats to the SEC, getting another national championship, all those kind of things, like one of the first things we brought up was simply the two words we always like to use together: the old guards.
Yep.
We need some merch with old guards. You had Ole Miss colors last year, just that's what we go. So having the guys they have that have played as many minutes as Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and then of course TKR in the front court. That's a pretty good nucleus to start with there. And so I know Florida fans, we're still high on you. I'm still of the belief that, like I said, we did our preseason way too early rankings. Florida at the top to me. And I think I can make the stronger argument for Purdue and buy that one. I want to say maybe more so than Michigan, but too, I'm a big Dusty May guy. So it's kind of hard for me to look at that roster and not feel like that they are in a position to be fantastic, because you look at kind of the core of the roster, with the guys that, whether it's Lindenborg, who else? Amari Burnett, how many seasons he's played now? Johnson's there. There's so many different guys that I think he's put together on this roster, and there's a reason why they have the odds as high as they do. But I'm okay if you buy the argument that Purdue in that question. Maybe it's still a little bit wait and see on Michigan, but again, I think we've clearly seen that Dusty May knows how to get the most out of whatever he puts together roster-wise, and that's to say that he's got a pretty talented one right now.
I think the chat is in agreement with you. Chris says, as a person who lives in Big Ten country here in Ohio. Hey, Chris, I was born in Akron. Where in Ohio? I used to be an Ohio guy. I think Purdue is fair, but Michigan, do you know the joke I always make? Are you making fun of me because of that?
I don't remember. You may have made the joke, but I'm not sure.
I used to make a joke that I got a blood transfusion from LeBron at Akron General, and that's why I'm so athletic. But
that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah, usually ends up in a reaction like that. Darren says Purdue buy, Michigan sell. So also we're there. But then Zatorius says, I don't know. Michigan's got Yaxel. They've got guys like Morez Johnson, Ademara. So I think I'm right there with you. I trust the Purdue guards. I don't know if down the stretch, 2 minutes left, 1 minute left, a few possessions left, if I'm trusting Elliot Cadeau, Roddy Gale, LJ Kaysen, Trey McKinney, whoever it is they're bringing the rock up for Michigan. I think I'll take Florida and Purdue in that situation. But hey, that Michigan front court and the way that Dusty May plays through those bigs, kind of a unique situation there. And I think they're rightfully getting some respect, but maybe a little bit too much.
How many teams in the country have 3 players returning that average 14 or more points? My guess is it's probably not a lot, right?
Probably not. I don't know off the top of my head.
But that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Right.
TKR averaged 20 a game. Braden Smith averaged 16. Lawyer averaged 14. So that's why I think if you're making the comparison, to me, Purdue feels like the safe bet over a Michigan, and quite frankly, over a lot of teams. That's why they have the best odds right now in the country. And I think that's the whole point, is that, national championship outlook, like, it's easy to understand why they are probably at the top for many people, or at worst in the top 3. Because on FanDuel right now, there is a gap between Purdue, Houston, and Duke, and Florida. So Purdue plus 900, Houston plus 1,000, Duke plus 1,100, and then Florida back to 17, which is also where Kentucky's at now, by the way. UConn's also at plus 17. So I think for me, like, it's understandable with Purdue. You can't. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, all those guys play 31 or more minutes a game.
Wow.
The big three for Purdue all played 31 or more minutes. And so you're going to take that, and then you're going to, again, kind of plug in a bunch of other very good players. And so I think that when you look at it as a whole, to me, I feel like it's one where they're, and look, I mean, even like a CJ Cox, he's back, right? He was technically their fourth leading scorer, although it was only at 6 points a game, but still, I mean, this is a guy who goes from, being a freshman to a sophomore now. And so, yeah, like I think that's certainly something I look at when I'm looking at Purdue and feel pretty good about their chances to be one of the best teams out there without question.
Yeah, and they got the big guy Clough Oscar from San Diego, or not San Diego State, South Dakota State. Am I right when saying, like, I feel like Purdue is lumped into the kind of like, I don't care if they're a number 1 seed in March. It's Purdue. I'm not picking them to win all. It's like that. They're just lumped into that. But I say that to get to the point that I feel like that's not the case this offseason. I feel like people are really respecting the squad Purdue has put together and are not just. I feel like the Zags also were put into that category for a while. I don't care if they're the number 1. It's Gonzaga. They're not going to win it all. I'm not picking them to win it all. That might just be me personally. But I feel like Purdue's getting a lot of national respect, kind of a little bit more than even the Edey years and stuff. It's like this team is stacked.
Anytime you lose to a 16 seed as a 1 seed, you will always be questioned in March. I don't care who you are, what regime is leading the way, you will always be questioned. So, but look at the way I think they play this year. I'd find it hard to believe I would pick that upset if they're a number 1 seed, because these dudes are pretty good. So, all right. So I'm buying Purdue in that argument, although I do still think there's an idea that I feel like if it's possible to underrate Florida a little bit, I just think sometimes we're just trying to reach a little bit on, are the guards going to be any good? Because that's been the discussion, and I don't have a big question mark about Florida's guards the way some people seem to. So I'm not sold on either of these being buys, but like if I'm going to pick one or the other, for me, it's Purdue.
I agree.
All right. I've got one for you, and it goes to the Hogs.
Ooh.
Woo pig. And I saw this. I thought this was an interesting one to tie in because I might actually have another Arkansas one for you. But we're going to start with this one because I think this was kind of a funny. I saw this story came out a couple of days ago. Michael Maine put it out in Best of Arkansas Sports. And, of course, it came, if you watched the interview last week, that John Rothstein did with John Calipari, it was mentioned in there. And one of the things he mentioned was, of course, you've got the big Arkansas versus Duke game, right? Going down Thanksgiving night, prime time, CBS, 8 Eastern tip at the United Center, Chicago. What an atmosphere that's going to be. Although, hey, give it in one of their home buildings, and I think you've still got a pretty fun atmosphere. But still, that there, when you look at it. Now, Cal said he thinks, Max, it's going to be the highest rated regular season game in the last decade. All right? So, I mean, this qualifies a burning question to me. Is this going to be the most watched game in college basketball in the past decade? Now, for reference, and this is why I think this article was good. So, of course, last year, remember, Arkansas played Illinois. That had over 5 million people who watched it. And it was the most watched regular season game of the year and the second largest, highest rated game for a regular season game since 2008. So, Cal's like, I'm taking it a step forward. Going to be the most watched game we've seen in the last decade. I think there's a good shot. Thanksgiving, holiday, people around the TV. You got the NFL. What are the NFL Thanksgiving games this year? I got to look that up while you're talking. But
our brain works the same way sometimes. I was just going to say, like, it depends what that 3-4 o'clock, whenever the Thanksgiving schedule is always weird, but whatever that kind of afternoon game is for the NFL.
Here you go.
What do we got?
So it's a good thing it's not at 4:30 Eastern, because the 4:30 Eastern will probably, in my opinion, be the most watched NFL regular season game of the year. That's the Chiefs at the Cowboys.
Right. Okay. Yes.
All right. So it's not going to beat that. The Packers and Lions also play. Thanksgiving slate loaded this year for the NFL.
Ooh.
But then the night game is the Bengals at the Ravens, which I'm like, all right, that's a big game, but come on. If I'm picking between the Bengals and the Ravens and the Hogs and the Blue Devils, it's a pretty easy choice.
I would rather have that than the previous two games.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a better setup, but yeah, let's just Blake, are you kidding me here with this matchup? Are you kidding me here? You got the Boozers, you've got the Blue Devils, Dame Star International, Caleb Foster's been there forever. Isaiah Evans gonna shoot 25 threes in the first 2 minutes. Billy Richmond's not even on the screen. He already dunked it. He's doing slamma-jammas in the layup line. Yeah, this matchup is going to be one of the most highlight. Give me all the highlights from this, the alley-oops, the freak athleticism in this matchup. Like, not sure how good the shooting's going to be outside of a few players, but sign me up. Look at that matchup.
Yeah. I mean, it is going to be pretty wild, I think, like I said. And I'm actually looking back in this article here. So in this one from Best of Arkansas Sports, it says, so the only game that topped the 2008 game, so the only game other than Arkansas, Illinois that we talked about since 2008, so the one that had higher ratings than that one did last year, was Arizona and Michigan State in 2023, which also came in that spot where it had the NFL lead-in, right? And so that's the whole point, is to think about the lead-in that's going to come from that afternoon game, because it is on CBS. So that I think is the big sort of picture here when you look at it, because so now that I was like, which network is it on? That makes sense. So the Chiefs and Cowboys, they are on CBS. So you're going straight from that to, I guess, the way I'm thinking, right? It would be Arkansas Duke. So you're getting the lead in from that game. Got to. I mean, I think he's on to something there. So if you're getting, because I feel like that is just an obvious one. So I think Cal's on to something with this one. Most watched game, maybe. And although people have said, how many did the Kentucky-Arkansas game get? We talked about that last year. What was I don't remember where that ranked. But this one, though, being on CBS is different.
Fit.
Yeah. So
we threw a fit because there was no game day, remember?
Yeah. That's right. Well.
So you're telling me, Blake, that belly full of turkey and stuffing and dessert, pumpkin pie, and I just watched Dak Prescott throw to CeeDee Lamb to tie it up and send it into overtime, and then Kelsey and Taylor Swift are on the screen, and then boom, what's this? Billy Richmond's flying around. There goes Carter Knox. Oh my gosh. I need something to throw at a wall right now. I'm getting fired up.
I think you should stand up, turn around, and run right through that wall behind you, because that's the kind of setup we got for Arkansas and Duke here. So going to be tremendous. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun. All right. That was a lesser, maybe burning question for some of you, but I'm fascinated by the idea that this could be the most watched regular season game in 17 years or so. All right.
You got the burning part right now. There's a fire lit inside now.
I'm burning.
Exactly. There you go.
I need to buy some medicine for it, but man, I'm burning.
You know what else?
I'll tell you who else is burning.
Oh, let's go.
Look out.
There we go.
Out. Now, what were you going to say? Because I was going to say something probably different.
I was going to say the coffee that's in your Game Time Sidekick cup 30 minutes after you pour it.
This is unreal.
Your Gators national title Game Time Sidekicks cup.
We are now synced up for the ad reads. This is how you know we are already in regular season mode here at Southeastern 16, because this is just tremendous. While I'm reading this, Max, I would like you to do me a favor.
Yes.
There is a question in the chat about how to join the membership. And if you could find that link for me in our dashboard there, that would be helpful to put that in the chat for anyone that wants to join the membership. Actually, you know what, Max? Have no fear. I've already got it pulled up right here. That rhymed too. But
too good.
Right there, join the membership. We'll put it there. And my goodness, folks, as Max said, look at this. Look at this. There's the hog right there. I mean, this is just, we're going to keep going in a circle here to make sure everyone is represented. I'm a little questionable about that Georgia Bulldog there. But, all right, so there's the whole crew. They're all represented on this cup. An absolutely tremendous product from our friends at GameTime Sidekicks. They are the best of the best, as we keep telling you. If you want to keep your stuff cold, if you want to keep your stuff hot, there's no better place to go than GameTime Sidekicks, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. All SEC schools represented, plus over 350 more universities are there. If you're like, you know what, I'm tired of this Arkansas talk, I'm a Duke Blue Devil fan. Well, we're glad you're here, but good luck in the chat. But you can go get yourself a Duke cup over at GameTime Sidekicks. Top of the market quality as far as construction and ice retention. They've got the double wall, vacuum insulated stainless steel. All the logo printing and product decoration done in Sam Smith's home in Knoxville, Tennessee. Tons of designs and logos offered for each school. They have the College Vault line. Good stuff there. Check it out. Everything from the stainless steel sippy cups, the tumblers, the 40-ounce bottles, and the shaker cups if you want to get in on the action. And you're going to be sitting back on Thanksgiving having just watched Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift smooch on the screen after the big win for the Chiefs in Arlington. Then you can do it with the discount code SE16. SE16. 20% off. 20% off SE16. Southeastern 16. Sent you. Let them know. We appreciate it. All right. There you have it. Next, Max, what else we got on the burning questions?
I got a few more if we need. Should I do it? Do another one? I could go player or go coach.
Before you do that, 1 second. So I know you guys are saying you're having some issues with the memberships. It should pop up whenever you join the memberships here. It should tell us, but if there's any issues, I will just say refresh your screen. Try to reload, something like that. If you're trying to gift memberships, Keep Aiden in Tuscaloosa said, tried to gift out a membership during the read, didn't show up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, but just keep trying. And if you have more issues, let us know, and we'll try to figure it out. All right. What'd you say my options were, Max? I forgot.
I could do like player question, player question, or coach. Player. Okay. So this question is kind of a fun one. And it's basically like, who is going to be the John Tanji this year? Who is going to be that SEC exiting player that then doesn't have their team saying like, dang, we need that player. Maybe that team maybe it was the best for both, but just what SEC exit player are we going to be sitting like, man, they are just having a fantastic season, similar to how Tanjay left Missouri and then goes to Wisconsin and just absolutely crushes it in the Big Ten. A few different guys. Yeah. Chad Baker-Mazara, USC, Silas Demery, UConn, Jason Edwards, Providence, kind of the top guys, but there's a few other there, wherever you want to take it.
Max, you know me very well, right? I mean, we just did an ad read in sync with each other. Just had an ad read segue at the same time. You know who I'm picking, right?
I don't know.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm glad you provided a list of potential candidates because I would not have remembered the hundreds of people that have transferred out of the SEC. But, in my opinion, the guy who is best set up for success is Silas Demery at UConn. I just think he is the best choice. I think that I was very high on him last year. I know, sometimes we're like, well, this, that, whatever. But I'm like, if you looked at kind of, again, the role he played on that Georgia team last year, and I think that you kind of see the potential now on this particular UConn roster. I mean, no offense, but like going from that to where you're going from a Georgia team that was kind of borderline NCAA tournament to going to a UConn team that is one of the top favorites to win the national championship, and you're probably a guy who's going to be playing how many minutes, right? Quite a few. I just think he's best set up for success there, and I just think that's a good choice for me.
Keep Aiden says Ja'Kai Howard to Utah. That's a very underrated move this offseason. I had that on the list. Ja'Kai Howard probably going to be battling with Syracuse transfer Elijah Moore for that kind of wing spot there for Utah. But yep, good flyer there. I also was going to say Silas Demery. A few other guys that would be in that conversation. You've got Chad Baker-Mazara at USC now, which is a bit of a unique roster. They don't really have a true starting point, so you don't really know how that's going to shake out there minutes-wise, but Baker-Mazara will have a huge impact. Jason Edwards running the show for Providence. You've got a few other guys that probably won't be in as big of roles, but still to high major teams. Ja'Kai Howard at Utah. Jaron Stevenson to North Carolina. That was one I kind of forgot about. He might, be able to break out there for the Heels. Riley Kugel to UCF. Kanye Clary to Oklahoma State. Maybe Kanye Clary has a nice offensive season. But yeah, as I was looking through, Blake, I was like, now that I'm really trying to break this down and see like who are the top leaving the league. Now, obviously there's intra-conference transfers, a bunch of them, but it's like, man, who are we really going to miss? After 3 or 4 names, Blake, it kind of is just like, wow, the league really didn't lose too much transfer talent.
Well, it's just always like you just know it's going to happen. Even the best players that exit out, like you just know that it's just going to happen every year because of the nature of where we're at with, NIL and all this other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a question that you have to answer based on potential role. And for me, that is where, yeah, like I feel like Demery is in the best position to have the most success. Because he's probably, the guy that, let's see if I look back at the odds here, right? I mean, is there anyone that transferred out to Purdue, Houston, remind me because I'm going to forget some of these. Duke, UConn.
From the SEC?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so UConn is the next team in line. As I said, they currently have the same odds as Florida and Kentucky. So I just feel like he's a projected starter on a national championship type team, and I feel like that gives him a pretty good opportunity to have a lot of success. So I will go with Demery, but like you said, I think Baker-Mazara is interesting at USC for a variety of reasons that we've talked about. The bus connection and all this other stuff. So so I think it's a good one. But I'd be surprised if Demery is just not a potential beast for that UConn team that, as we said, is built roster-wise to be pretty good.
Well, also, Blake, the thing about Demery on UConn that has, I know, a lot of UConn fans excited is it's that classic Dan Hurley tall point guard, right? He had Newton there that was just would have the size advantage at the guard spot every time. And now you've got big old 6'5" Demery, same exact prototype. Doesn't shoot threes like Newton does. Different style of play, but defensively and what they can do with, we might talk about UConn a little bit more here, but it's a nice style fit. That 6'5" oversized guard, it's classic to the past few years at UConn.
Jason Edwards is a good call too, though. I mean, averaged 17 points a game at Vandy. Now goes to Providence. I'm curious where Providence winds up being in the Big East. I think they actually, let me see here. Did Rothstein put out his Big East? I'm just curious because I think that'd be kind of a fascinating thing to look at, or maybe that's what he was doing that today. I'm not sure, but so he did. Okay, so he made Providence his sleeper team in the Big East on his latest podcast. So
he did.
So that's interesting. So
college basketball is more fun when Providence is good because that fan base is bonkers, absolutely nuts. I like when Providence is good. Remember the Al Durham year? Mm-hmm. Al Durham would shoot 17 free throws a game.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I like it. By the way, we got the representation everywhere today. We got Germany represented.
Where from?
Currently watching in Germany. We've got Australia represented. Now, what time is it in Australia, Darren? Current time, Australia. I'll tell you what time it is. It's SEC basketball time. 12:46 a.m. is what I'm seeing. Incredible. Incredible stuff. So, you guys are all over the world watching right now. Yeah. Awesome.
Oh, okay. Nice. Maybe we can get a German stream going. Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
All right. We're just going to go ahead and tell you right now, we will not be doing any German streams probably this season. Although I think, Max, that may be a bonus member type thing. So if you want to join that, be a member there. So, so currently stationed. Yeah, that's cool. Big Blue Nation represented there as well. So, Big Blue Nation everywhere. So should we just throw in a Kentucky question now for the hell of it? Because got a lot of you people, as always, we appreciate the Kentucky fans. You got one, Max, that you think is Kentucky
I have
related?
one that ties to the current conversation. And it wasn't my question. It was from a conversation I saw on Twitter. And I just thought it was an interesting debate. It was from some Kentucky account. There's 7,000 of them. So it was a tweet from a Kentucky account, and it said something along the lines of, we have the best X's and O's coach. And a lot of UConn fans replied saying, well, Mark Pope's a really good X's and O's coach, but we have the best. We have Dan Hurley. And I was just like, wow, that's a great debate. That is a fantastic debate. Not just Dan Hurley versus Mark Pope. I think you can throw a few other coaches in there. But in this new era of basketball, this perimeter-oriented, analytic style basketball, who would you say is your top, if some random guys,
Uh-oh. Max is frozen.
Am I?
He's back now. It was only a couple seconds. You're back.
It was a couple seconds. It was like, who would you say your top X's and O's offensive coach are? There's a few names being thrown out in the chat already. But I just thought it was a really interesting debate.
Well, I mean, it is. And I think, like you said, if you're looking at it just from an offensive standpoint, I know people are going to bring up Hurley in terms of the emotional, the clipboards, like all this kind of stuff, like the high emotions. But like the dude he is elite when it comes to just the X's and O's side of things. But look, I mean, like we talked about last year, how many times did we say last year as we're watching Kentucky play? And I'm not going to make this a, Pope versus Cal thing, but we said, we're like, if you want to just spot some easy differences, it is the X's and O's type offensive stuff. And I think that was something where we knew that about Mark Pope. That was one of the reasons Kentucky hired him. It wasn't just the fact that he was an alum. It was because he had kind of that pedigree of being an innovative offensive type mind, which, remember, I mean, the guy, Rick Pitino, so, like, of course, like, he's probably learned a few things in terms of looking at it from an offensive standpoint. And so I think that is clearly something that you look at and feel like, okay, he's one of the best out there. There's no question. Like I said, I don't think people should knock Hurley just because of, he's a very, again, I mean, a guy that just does not hold back his thoughts, and he is into it, and we get all that, but he still is, I would say, probably top 3 in terms of like the X's and O's type stuff. And the back-to-back national championships prove that when you just look at the way you're able to kind of play. And so I think those two are clearly, in that discussion. I think you've got to put Nate Oates in there. I don't know how you couldn't, because you want to talk about someone who just, from an offensive standpoint, I mean, have we ever looked up and said, man, I'm really concerned about Alabama offensively? Have we really ever done that? I can't remember a time that we've done that. Really.
Jeez.
I mean, really, we just haven't. I mean, they finished in the top 5 in offensive efficiency, top 4 the past 2 seasons. Even beyond that, like, they finished in the top 35-ish. So, like, I don't know that we've ever looked at it and just said, man, we should be concerned. But it just goes back to kind of what he's done. So I think the way Nate Oates has used the spacing concept, just, again, the idea from using the X's and O's to push kind of the analytics and the things that go together. Like we said, it's threes and layups. Like is that X's and O's? Not all, but like it is a part of just the way they do it. And I think that's such a big part of it. And another name I'll mention too is, I mean, you can't really leave Mark Few out of the conversation. Like he's always got to be in there. But and I will. There's another guy too, and I am going to bring Mark Byington into this conversation because I know it was brought up in the chat. But like, I think as you're going to see this year, I feel like you're going to see even more of what we saw last year, kind of as the foundation for what they want to do offensively. I think I told you this. I found something that's like, I found some sort of note somewhere from like Mark Byington several years ago or something that sort of breaks down his entire offensive scheme and what they want to do, like on every offensive possession. It is fascinating. And maybe at some point we'll share some of that on here. But like, I just, those are all guys that, as we're seeing the innovative offensive stuff, there's probably a bunch of other guys we're not even thinking of. But to me, those are top tier level guys.
I think a name that hasn't been mentioned in the chat would be Todd Golden.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's kind of, he's not the creator of the, the two big 3-guard lineup that he's, by any means, but he's definitely popularized it, made it mainstream with the past 2 seasons of what they've done. And I'm just thinking right now, I can see it in my head, Blake. It's like a nightmare for my April rent that I thought was in the bag. Walter Clayton comes off of like a double screen. They're down by 3, and he's just wide open. Perfect play call out of a timeout. They needed a 3 down. There's like single-digit minutes left in the second half of that national title game. Perfect play call to drop Walter Clayton for his shot. Bangs it down, tie game, and from there, game on. So I think you pretty much nailed all of it, but I was surprised no one said Golden.
Here's a question, and this has become the Purdue podcast, but like, does Purdue always have the best talent?
That's a great point.
I mean, really, honestly, if we're being honest, do they always have the best talent, or do they just have a coach that puts them in a position where they run a lot of good shit? I mean, let's just call it what it is. Like, that's what they do. And so I feel like that is something else to think about with Matt Painter. And like you said, I know there's going to be the knock on the idea that, okay, maybe they haven't gone as far as they wanted to. Yes, they lost as the 1 seed, all this kind of stuff. But if you look at his offensive numbers throughout the years, I don't think that's just a matter of just being the most talented team in the country. I think it's putting your guys in the right position to succeed. And so I'd throw Matt Painter in there too. Probably one of the higher ones on the board.
I was going to say he's got to be at the top of this conversation just because what he's done.
Here's some other names I'm going to throw at you because I was curious what the thought of for many people is if you go out and look like online, what's the discussion being had? All right, here's some names I'm going to throw at you that I've seen. Bill Self. I know Missouri fans don't like that, but it's hard to argue with. I think he's good in that. Greg McDermott, Creighton.
I was thinking of him.
Let's see who else. Like, these are some of the short lists of people. Like, Fran McCaffrey was on there. I don't know if that necessarily still applies, but this was several years ago. I'm looking at something. Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. We talked about that Florida-Arizona game. I think Tommy Lloyd's someone coming from Gonzaga, as we mentioned, kind of being with Mark Few for all those years. I think that he was kind of seen as someone offensively who could certainly play at that level. Let's see who else is out there.
Buzz Williams, great offense last year.
We continue our conversation here. Bucky McMillan, Bucky Ball. I'll throw him on there just so we.
There you go.
I mean, it's true though. He is kind of seen as someone who's pretty good there. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of choices. I know someone's going to jump in and say we forgot about this guy or that guy. I'm sure we did, but yeah, I think that's a good group. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have here? There was someone else I was thinking. Oh, yeah, here we go. Otis mentioned it. I forgot to bring it up, too. I was going to bring him up. But, yeah, so if you think about, like, BYU and kind of the trajectory of them, getting Kevin Young, who clearly seen as sort of an offensive wizard, I feel like is definitely something that should be put in the mix. And I think we'll probably see some of that play out this year, given the roster he has. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No question.
Big time.
No question. Nick, I apologize. Sometimes we get excited here, and so I apologize. I apologize, Nick.
Watch your profanity.
We will never do it again. All right. What else we got?
Should we try to rank some shooting teams, or are we still questioning?
We probably should rank some shooting teams, but before we get there, let's pull up a couple things from, let me see if we pull up some things from the chat I don't want to forget about. Yes, we can't all agree that Max's visual lineup charts are top-notch. You want to talk about the best in the game. Max's, yes, visual lineup charts, absolutely. And don't forget, though, Hurt Life Rick wanted to chime in again, Max, to let you know LSU's going to make the tournament this year. Got to tell Mad Max I told you so. All in on the Tigers.
Hey, sign me up. Sign me up for that.
The more the merrier. That's the way I see
it.
$2 super chat from Justin real quick, and we'll keep going on here. Will Vanderbilt be able to compete in the post? Yes. I think so. I think they've got more depth this year. So more size, more depth. That's always a nice thing to have in the post. I think they've got enough of it.
Yep.
All right, we're going to answer one more question here, then we'll get back to the topic at hand. Sam says, what do you make of the report Kentucky spending 45% of the revenue share on basketball? Is the SEC going to drop in basketball? I know some people were chiming in saying, hey, you know what? Why are they not spending 90%? Why only 45%? So that is something we talked about yesterday, Max.
I believe the number from Norlander was just above 9 million. I think 9 point something million. I mean, hey, that's what it takes to acquire a championship caliber roster. That's what it takes.
That is what it takes in this era. So we'll see. All right. Let's continue on. Max, the top 5 shooting teams. Burning question type here. Who are going to be the top 5 shooting teams in the SEC?
Do you have a top 5? Because I have a distinct top 5, and it was a little surprising to me, some of them.
I want to hear you start. I mean, I've got, to me, the couple teams. I feel like we brought this up in one of our streams recently. I don't remember when, but yes, I think I've got an idea.
So I went through and did my 3-pointer numbers, the total makes for the new roster, the total percentage for the new roster, and then combine them into a cumulative ranking, and then also try to factor in the freshmen, because there's some teams that it's like their top 3 scorers are probably going to be freshmen and stuff like that. So it's a little bit hard to project, but it gets a good idea. It's how we found out Oklahoma was going to be a really good 3-point shooting team last year.
Big Gator EJ asks, are we talking just shooting or field goal percentage teams? We're talking shooting, right?
3.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any question who the best is going to be. That's pretty clear this year. And it's not very close. Do you know who I'm going to say?
Would that be the Tide?
That's going to be the Tide. Alabama is far and away going to be at least projected to be the number 1 3-point shooting team. They have the most makes as a roster. Their roster has made 371 last year. That's 60 more than any other SEC team. And not only do they have 60 more made threes as a team than anyone else, they shoot the number 1 percentage right now as a roster, 37.9%. So they by far make the most. And not only do they make the most, they have the highest percentage. So Alabama's kind of my off-season 3-pointer king.
I think that's the best. I mean, again, that was, to me, the easiest choice. I just feel like they're in a great position, given their current roster, to be the best at makes in terms of how many they make per game.
Yeah, and with the rest of the league kind of going to take a step back shooting wise, I wonder how heavily to weight that advantage. Number 2 for me is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they were number 2 in the total 3-pointers made rankings and number 3 in team percentage. They've got some absolute, like we've been talking about with Tyler Nickel. He was 40% last year, made 81 threes. But then they've got 3 or 4 different guys that are all like right at like 40% on lower volume. Tyler Harris last year, he made 44 threes at 49%. Guy was an absolute sniper last year. Duke Miles made 40 threes at 43%. Even bigger guys like McLaughlin was a 34% guy. Okereke, the transfer, was 33%. So they not only have the high volume guys, but they also have guys that you can't leave open, Blake.
Yeah, like we said, I think with Nickel, what his numbers are going to look like, and just seeing the overall, and it goes back to what I talked about, the way Byington wants to play. I think you're going to see a team that is set up for success when it comes to making some threes. And look, that's always been something too with Vanderbilt. Like I said that going back in the past. I mean, the Vanderbilt teams that were most successful, it's a different era now, but it were the teams that they didn't always have the best players, the most talented players, but they could just simply outshoot you. And they could just simply come out and make more threes, and that was the great sort of separator. Back in the day when you had the Shane Foster teams, and even going further back than that, the Drew Maddox teams, and just the teams that could just shoot the ball. That was kind of Vanderbilt's identity as a basketball program, and getting back to that, I think, would make a lot of fans happy.
Okay, so if Tyler Nickel, if his 3-pointer line this past year was 81 for 200 at 40.5%, give me a projection for this year. If he was 81 for 200 this past year.
What was Kobe Bryant's? Was it 100 of 202 or something? I'm trying to remember
something
what
like
Bryant's
that.
numbers was.
Yeah.
Give me that. Give me a Kobe Bryant type year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler Nickel, triple-digit 3 threshold being passed?
I think so.
I'll take it too. All right. So those are my top 2. And then this is where it really opens up. You can kind of go in a few different directions. And so I just followed my numbers. You can go wherever you want. But the numbers, which are not perfect, but they say this is the big shock, Blake. This is the one that was like, there is no way. Georgia.
Oh,
in the cumulative rankings, Georgia. Okay, so last year as a cumulative, they shot 305 for 831. Those 305 makes ranked 3rd in the make rankings for 36.7%, which is 4th best. And when you break down the Georgia roster and you look at, okay, well, who's shooting threes? Well, Smurf Melender made 67 last year at 43.5%. Jeremiah Wilkinson made 60 at 32%. And it drops down a little bit. You've got Justin Bailey, who made 54 at 45%. Blue Kane made 46 at 34%. Cannon Catchings made 43 at 35%. Even Jordan Ross made 24 at 30%. They have a lot of guys that can knock down an open shot.
Let me give you a stat.
What do you got?
So at Georgia, Mike White has not had a team yet that's finished in the top 174 in 3-point percentage. Throughout his entire career, he's not had a team finish in the top 78 in 3-point percentage. Only one team in his career has shot better than 36%. Now, something to think about there, and the reason I bring that stat up is not to knock Mike White. It's to say this is a league where you don't have a lot of teams that shoot higher than that. And so it kind of brings it full circle to say, now that you mentioned those kind of things, you could see Georgia finishing high, even though the percentage may not be great nationally. There aren't a lot of SEC teams each year that do finish in the higher numbers nationally, just because it's not a great shooting league. So I think that is at least something to think about, is that while their percentage may not be, again, to an elite level of what to me, I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking what Alabama's percentage could be at 1 and Georgia's at 3, there's a wide gap there. But
Yes.
there are usually not more than, I would say, I mean, it's easily less than a handful of SEC teams each year that shoot in the upper range nationally, right? So, probably average or better, to be honest. Like it's not a league that's built on shooting. So I'm curious to see if they break through and have one of those shooting teams like that.
A lot of it rides on Smurf Melender holding up that, because he was a high volume guy that nailed 43.5%. So that has a big impact on the team percentage. But still, I mean, maybe they take a step back, but if their cumulative is up near, if it's 36.7%, and even they're back at like 34%, like as a team, that's still one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the league, right?
They were 34% 2 years ago. They finished 174 nationally. But if you go back and look at like the percentages, I mean, overall, Kentucky was the number one that year at, 40.9%.
Yeah.
But if you just keep scrolling down, Alabama was at 37%. Ole Miss was 36%. So you had a lot of teams kind of in that same sort of similar range. Yeah. But like if I keep scrolling, still scrolling, LSU 35%. Like, so you kind of see that's sort of where the number settles. So even if you got to like a 34%, that would be fine and probably good enough for top 5 in the SEC or so.
Yeah, right around there. It's a little surprising. But moving on, another team that was discovered last year, Oklahoma, I have at 4. And this could be improved. Oklahoma has a lot of guys that can knock down a shot, but it's using numbers from Nigel Pack last year when he was 50 for 140 for 35%. I did not take his numbers from 2 years ago when he was 86 at 213 for 40%. So if Nigel Pack is 100% healthy, these numbers could go up. But you've got Pack and then Jaden Jones, who we have just not talked about at all. He made 73 threes for 38% last year he played. Xavier Brown made 63 for 35%. So there's 3 guys just between Nigel Pack, Jaden Jones, and Xavier Brown who at some point in their career have nailed a 60-plus, 35% or better season. 3 guys all in the backcourt. That's a lot of three-pointers. You haven't even talked about Forsyth, Tay Davis, Darian Reed, Jeff Nwankwo, any of those guys. So it heavily relies on Pack going back to that like 80, 2.5, 3 threes a game type of guy that he was at Final Four year at Miami. But yeah, like Oklahoma probably going to be right there at the top 3-pointer wise again.
All right, just quickly before we finish the list here, if you are still jumping in, we're going to go a little longer than an hour. We usually do an hour, but there are still 2 things to come. Some people have been asking about, yes, we know Missouri landed a huge commitment. We will talk about that in a second. We're also going to talk about the non-conference game of the week that we're going to look at way too early. Probably should have said this almost an hour ago. Last week we said it's going to be Kentucky-St. John's. We pulled an audible. We're going to talk Kentucky-Louisville coming up here before the end of the stream. So Kentucky fans, if you're like, we've just been waiting, give us something, don't worry. We're going to give you a Kentucky-Louisville way too early preview coming up here in just a minute. All right. Shane, don't worry. We got you on the Missouri discussion coming up in a second. All right. Next up.
Yeah. So after Oklahoma, to round out my top 5, I have got.
Hold on. Let me look. I'm going to try to do a guessing game here. I'm like, okay, we went through those. I don't think it's that team, but I mean, it's Kentucky. Got to be Kentucky?
No. But if you want to put Kentucky there, I 100% wouldn't tell you no. Kentucky, they don't rank well on the cumulative. Geez, they're ranked 12th. But I think everyone's numbers are going to go up. They didn't have a ton of volume. Their number 1 3-point shooting guy was Cam Williams, made 56, and then second was Jalen Lowe with 41. So there's a lot of teams that had like at least someone had like a 70, 83 type of season. So Kentucky just lower on the volume scale. But wouldn't argue against it. I have Texas A&M number 5. Texas A&M has, and this is using numbers from Rylan Griffin last year at Kansas, which he had a down year shooting. He's capable of better years. Rylan Griffin, we saw that at Alabama. But you've also got Dominguez, the international guy coming in, who I think is going to be a really good shooter. And then Pop Isaacs, not a high percentage, but he was 73 for 250 the year before he got injured. Jakari Lane made 73s last year at 42%. I don't think we're talking about Jakari Lane enough. Mbako almost made 53s at 33%. And then Agee, the late front court pickup, Blake, he made 27 threes at 39% last year. He was like a 3 a game kind of stretch big also. So yeah, I think Jakari Lane, Blake, flying a little bit under the radar. He was a 73 guy last year at 42%.
Well, we know they want to shoot threes. And like we said, I think it's this year I'm curious if they do finish in the top 5 based on potential volume. But I think next year you're probably going to see the real results, I think, of what the Bucky offense could look like. Although, as we mentioned, they are the team that we just keep getting higher and higher on based on the roster that's put together. So, yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. So, all right, so your top 5 was A&M at 5, Oklahoma at 4, Georgia at 3, Vanderbilt 2, Alabama 1. Top 5 shooting teams potentially in the SEC. We will mark it down.
Yep.
And we will come back to it at the end
Georgia's
of the season.
The hot take there. Georgia's the one that could. Smurf's got to shoot well. Smurf, you got to hold those numbers up. Smurf.
Remember, folks, this is not necessarily an opinion-based thing. This is a statistical-based thing based on guys that are returning, coming into the league, those kind of things. And so that is the basis of this.
2 teams I think that should get mentioned that don't. Obviously Kentucky, but then also Tennessee. They have the second best percentage. As a team, they shoot 37%. But that's because it's literally just Jacoby Gillespie and Amari Abram. Cade Phillips, no threes. JP Estrella, no threes. Jalen Carey took a few. Akpara, none. Bunch of freshmen, international guys. Like, the only numbers I got for Tennessee are Gillespie and Abram. So not too many guys to pull from there.
All right, before we get into the Kentucky-Louisville thing, we're going to talk about Missouri's big addition, Max. So if you want to pull up anything on that, I'm going to quickly tell everyone about our friends at ROKFORM because we talk about incredible sponsors here on the show. There's no doubt that our friends at ROKFORM are just that. The world's strongest magnetic phone case.
Yes.
So that's what they offer, and it's a tremendous, tremendous thing. They're actually letting us get in on those. They're going to send us one of those and take a look at it, which, I mean, we keep saying, like, if you're someone who gets upset when your team plays, they don't do what you want them to do, you just throw your phone across the room, and you're like, what in the world have I just done? You don't have to worry about that with ROKFORM. Now, they're not telling you to throw your phone across the room. You can't hold them responsible for that, but it's the world's strongest magnetic phone case. And so extreme protection, which to me, extreme means if you're a sports fan, that follows into extreme. Extreme protection against sports fans. Super strong magnets, the Rock Lock secure mounting, the most durable, multi-functional phone case accessories as well. Quality is paramount for ROKFORM, just like this broadcast here. Quality is paramount. You can expect the same military-grade standards with their case accessories as you do the actual cases. Plus, don't forget they've got the golf accessories. If you're someone like Max Barr, gets out there and you swing that thing like Happy Gilmore, by the way, Happy Gilmore 2 coming out on Friday on Netflix, give it a watch. Durable and functional golf accessories, specially designed for the course, built for the pros, used by all. Let nothing get in the way between you and your swing except just your bad golf game, like me and Max. But our friends, ROKFORM.com. I'm going to put the link in the description. And Max, it's a nice way to transition into a rock-solid addition for the Missouri Tigers. What an unbelievable land. They pick up the number. Now, I'm going to make sure. Look, every recruiting service has different numbers, but a top 5 player. Let's just put it that way, okay? Maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, wherever you're looking. Jason Crow Jr., oh my goodness, from Inglewood, California. best point guard out there potentially. Unbelievable player this guy is.
Top recruit next to Michael Porter Jr. in Missouri history there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is from Kaiser Hoops. Sam Kaiser, if you guys know, always doing the high school breakdowns. Crow's an elite scoring guard who can get buckets in a variety of ways, attacking the basket and from the perimeter. So he's a 3-level playmaker. This guy's got everything. I'm already looking. Blake, Crow, Ant Robinson, off the bench, an upperclassman, T.O. Barrett, a senior, Sebi Mack. Stop. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're already talking 2 years from now. Nonetheless, guys, this is big time. You add an analytical beast like Ant Robinson who affects the games in so many ways, and then you add in a guy like Crow. It's a nice future there.
Listen, this is one of the things where, like, when they hired Dennis Gates, this was one of the things I was high on, was just the ability for him to sell a top-tier player to come to his program just based on all the things I mentioned, I think, that are good, positive characteristics that Dennis Gates brings to the table, not only just from a basketball coaching standpoint, but just a personal standpoint. Like, this is just a guy that I think players want to play for. And I think it's one of those things where, yes, they obviously, had the down year, they bounce back and go into a pretty big year again this season. But to have someone like this entering your program, I mean, this is like that potential, as we said, you mentioned him, like, Michael Porter Jr. comparisons in terms of the level of player this guy could be.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just throw that around often. And so clearly, I think someone who is going to come in right away, be in a position to be, an SEC player of the year, SEC freshman of the year type guy, next year. So, yeah, that's it. Like Shane said, promising lots of buckets, music to the ears, I think, of Missouri fans when it comes to kind of the way they look at what it could be. And that's why I think this year is still important, right? Because, it is something where you want to see them come out and be able to kind of sustain that momentum that they built up last year after being all the way down there at the bottom. And then you fight your way back up, have a great season. Obviously didn't finish the way they wanted it to, but I do think it's something like that where if you watch the highlights on this guy, he is a dynamic superstar type player. And anytime a guy like this who can have the ball in his hands as much as he does can impact the game that way, you're looking at a pretty good setup there. So
he heading into his senior season, this is from Finkelstein, heading into his senior season, he's less than 400 points away from breaking the all-time high school record in the state of California, all-time scoring record. Crow's gonna have it. He chose Mizzou over Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, UCLA, and a few others. So pretty much obviously, top 5 recruit. It's a good team. They wanted this kid. Everyone wanted him.
Yeah. All right. Before we hop into thoughts on Kentucky-Louisville, way too early. Look at that matchup coming up. New member on the chat,
Boom.
Of course. Finally, I'm glad it figured out a way to work. Sometimes it is easier on the desktop to be able to join as a member. So I will give you that. It's way easier to join than it is on mobile sometimes. So if you guys want to join in, you can do it. Check out the desktop link. That usually works better. Sometimes the mobile link can be a little, hard to deal with. But anyways, new members everywhere here at Southeastern 16 means you're getting the bonus content and our weekly SEC basketball bonus stuff as well. All right. We started this trend last week. We said each week now we're going to go through and look at one big non-conference game, a little way too early preview, if you will, and we've come to Kentucky-Louisville. Now, last week we were going to do Kentucky-St. John's, but Max alerted me and said, wait a second. Kentucky's got so many big non-conference games out there. Why don't we just go ahead and do one of the first ones on the list, and we'll get to St. John's eventually, which I said, you know what, Max? You're brilliant. You're a brilliant man. And, come on. Are you telling me that our audience would like to hear us talk about Kentucky-Louisville? Come on. It's a no-brainer. Max, the Cats and the Cardinals. Two teams that, as we mentioned, two of the highest national championship odds. out there, and they are going to meet up. By the way, I didn't give you the mention here. Louisville plus 2,000 right now on the odds. So Kentucky-Louisville, Max. Who's going to win? Take your pick right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, who's going to win? When? When is this, Blake? This is week 2. This is the start of week 2. Okay, this is Tuesday night of the second week of the season, November 11th. You're just getting started. You probably had a few, maybe a handful of good non-conference games in week 1, little week 1 season openers, some good ones. There's a good Florida game, but this is going to be one of the biggest of the whole non-conference, coming right on Tuesday night of week 2. This is at Louisville, folks. All right, not neutral. This is at the Yum Center. So I just wanted to set that stage. That's what to expect, Blake. We've watched 1 week of hoops. We're excited, and now boom, first big time Tuesday, we get this matchup.
Yeah, we do. And as we said, it's going to be quite an outstanding matchup when you look at it from that standpoint. I think, if we turn our focus to just, the setup here, I think clearly you talk about there's 2 things that stand out, and I'm looking at this graphic here, and that is the visual for the 2 freshmen for Louisville, right? And I think that is, kind of something. If we're looking at this matchup, these are 2 guys that are going to be expected to have a big role. We'll talk about the older guys in a second, but I think just the play of the freshmen is going to be a big part of this. And the same goes for Kentucky, even though, Jasper Johnson's not on there. Like we're talking about, this is because of where this sits in the season, this will give you a better idea of kind of, all right, where are these guys at? What exactly their roles are going to be? I know we talked about Brown. He is just, come on. This dude is just a stud. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to see this game. And I know Brian's like, hey, this game's way too early in the season. And I would somewhat agree with that. You'd like to see this played maybe a little bit later, but still, it gives you a good idea of where things stand kind of this early.
Yeah, just to set the stage also, this was a really nice game last year. It was later in the season. This game last year was in Rupp, and it was on Saturday, December 14th. So we were a month and a week into the season on a Saturday. And the pregame odds of that was Kentucky minus 9.5 with a total of 160. So this was going to be a high scoring, probably pretty comfortable Kentucky game. Kentucky ends up winning 93-85. And Blake, if you remember, that was the Lamont Butler game when he missed the previous 2 games. We didn't know what his status was. He comes back. He goes 6 of 6 from 3, career high 33 points. And that was a tough game for James Scott, Louisville's big man. He fouled out in 12 minutes. Chucky Hepburn also ended up fouling out for Louisville. And that win for the Cats. Now, let's see, what is it? Yeah, a 10-2 series run. So the last 12 games that these 2 have played, Kentucky's won 10 of them. And that leads us here to this year where Torvik is projecting. And now we can actually kind of use this because we know Vegas just pulls the odds right from analytics. And this is only going to be week 2, so not much is going to change. Torvik's projecting Louisville 82, Kentucky 78. So a line of Louisville minus 4-ish, total right around 160 again.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people. I just dropped my cup, by the way. Guess what? It's steel and everything's fine. Game time sidekicks. But so I saw a lot of people kind of talking about this Torvik line here and kind of what the projection looks like, right? And being a little bit maybe surprised that that's where it would be. But I get it from a Kentucky fan standpoint, but also, again, don't want to discount the idea that, as we said, Louisville is a team that is on paper for a lot of people a top 10 team as well. And so I think that it's just simply location plays a factor, those kind of things. And so I think it's going to be one where, again, we know the rivalry and all this other stuff, but I think just from a basketball standpoint, you are looking at this team that Pat Kelsey has put together and feeling like, okay, obviously with Brown, he is, he is a game-changing type player. And then when you talk about these other guys that we've kind of seen, Pryor's coming off of, what was the injury? I know I should know this, but like,
I believe it was a knee.
So he's coming off of that. And then, you've got obviously adding a Ryan Conwell to the mix and and those kind of things. I just think you're looking at a Louisville team here. If you go even further, by the way, I know we just put the starting fives up here, but
Right.
if you're going even further, that's where you're looking at the depth and what they can do. It's a deep team, the same we talked about with Kentucky. I mean, it's a deep kind of roster, and I think that's where we always say early in the season, you see coaches kind of work with the rotations a little bit, and you kind of see what the right fit's going to be. I think you'll see a lot of that on the Louisville side, but I think you'll see a lot of that on the Kentucky side too, because as we said, there are players that are not on the screen here that we know could potentially just be game changers for Kentucky, and so I think that's the thing to me is I'm most curious to see how these rotations are looking, but when these guys play this game at this time because it is this early in the season.
Yeah, not on the screen here for the Cats. You in the backcourt, you've got Colin Chandler and the freshman Jasper Johnson, who are going to make a splash. You also have Trent Noah, whether he's kind of positionless though at his size. You've got Cam Williams, who's one of our favorite breakout candidates, along with Braden Hawthorne, freshman. You've got one half of the Vitches with Andrija Jelovich, Malachi Moreno, and Reese Potter. And then if JQ is going to be healthy, that's a major impact on this game specifically since it's week 2, right? What's that going to look like? Is he going to be in his ramping up to speed, light minutes and everything, or is he going to be good to go? That's a major impact on this game. So that's who's not on the screen for the Cats. You're going to say something?
No, go ahead.
And I was just going to say for Louisville, in behind the freshman Brown, you've got Adrian Woolley, who almost was a tied 6'5" guard that played last year at Kennesaw, knockdown shooter. You've also got Kobe Rogers, and then kind of Louisville Swiss Army knife, their glue guy, Javon Hadley. He'll find his way to 25 minutes. He'll find a way. And then behind Pryor, you've got Connie Ruths. He was the freshman last year, the stretch 4 freshman last year. And then Ali Khalifa, who we didn't have the pleasure of watching last year, got cleared. So that's kind of the depth that's not on the screen for both. Both teams have depth, and both teams have quality of depth.
So the update Kelsey gave on Pryor, which I was going to bring up quickly, here's what he said. This was, actually a couple days ago. So, yeah, it was the ACL. But Pat Kelsey said, quote, great. From a medical standpoint, he's on pace, probably even ahead of schedule. You'd have to talk to Katie about that. I assume Katie's part of their medical team. Typically, that's a 9 to 12-month thing, and he's exactly where he needs to be. So, I mean, again, I don't, you're not seeing a specific timeline, but I think that is why this is so important because this game is played on November 11, and, it is so early in the season. So, obviously, it would be significant if he's not on the floor, but it does, like we said, I mean, he went out. When did he go down last year? He only played in 7 games, I think. So, yeah, so he would have went down last year in the end of November, I guess it was. So that would be about right. If he's ahead of schedule, he should be, you would think, good to go. So just a note on that.
Yeah. And so then just breaking down kind of Louisville shooting a little bit here, Blake. I think Louisville might be the best shooting team in the country. And that's saying something because of how much I like Alabama shooting. So just to compare the top shooters for each team, top volume shooters, Kentucky's top 3 shooters right now on the roster, and they have Jasper Johnson, who was 40% at the U19. So factor that in as well. Cam Williams made 56 last year. Jalen Lowe made 41, and Aberdeen 36. Let's assume all of them increase, right? But just still remember 56, 41, and 36. For Louisville, Isaac McNeely made 101. Ryan Conwell made 99, and Woolley made 63. All 3 of them above 41%. So just that's a very stark contrast there. And at the U19, Mikkel Brown in 7 games shot 20 of 42 for 47.6% from 3. So add that in as well. The volume of shooting difference, Blake, really stood out to me when I was breaking it down. You've got 3 different guys last year for Louisville who made at least 63s north of 41%. And you don't have a single player on Kentucky that made 60. That's a big difference.
Based on when this game is played, let's say we come out of this, win or lose, whoever, who's the Kentucky player we're talking about most that maybe is not an obvious choice? So either like there's a big storyline coming out of this game about one of these sort of Kentucky players, whether it's, man, this guy just kind of showed you what he's going to be. I feel like Oweh's, you can't pick Oweh. I mean, I feel like that's the easy choice. But like of the other Kentucky players, let's say it's a Kentucky win or however you want to, position it. Who's the guy this early in the season with a game like this that we're talking about coming out of it?
I have X factors listed, so it's funny you ask for that.
All right.
My X factor for Kentucky is Cam Williams for exactly. Hey, you couldn't have asked me at a better time. Exactly the time. I think Louisville is going to have the higher volume threes and at home. I mean, McNeely can get going high. Conwell can get going really quick. Even Pryor can shoot from outside. So Cam Williams from outside, being Kentucky's most proven three-point shooter so far, he's got to have a game and make up for that lack of volume, where we know, because even if you look at the matchup from last year, Blake, the 3-point numbers, I don't have them right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure Louisville shot like an unbelievable amount of threes. They only ended up making 14 of them, I'm pretty sure, but they shot a ton. Like, especially with it being at home at Louisville, I think Kentucky's going to need someone to knock down shots, and for me, that guy's Cam Williams.
Yeah, I like that choice because, as I mentioned, I think he is kind of that breakout superstar type guy. He's got all the tools, I think, and I feel like this may be kind of that point where if he comes out, has a big game, and you mentioned for the reasons where they need him to have a big game, that would be, I think, pretty significant moving forward in that scenario for Kentucky. What about your X factor for Louisville?
So my X factor for Louisville is the rim protection and foul rates, I guess you could call it, the rim protection and foul rates of Sananda Frew and Kashawn Pryor. Because I think Kentucky is going to have a sizable advantage here, a decent advantage in getting to the rim downhill. Jalen Lowe, Mo D, Otega Oweh pounding the rock inside. They're going to be relentless trying to get to the free throw line, like we've talked about before, Blake. And Pryor has decent foul per 40-minute numbers. He's been around like 2.9, 3.3 for the past 2 years. But how is Frew going to be, right? I mean, you're talking about Mikel Brown Jr. and Sananda Frew's first big-time college game. This is the first one they're going to play. Frew's not even in the U.S. right now. So, like, what does that look like if Mikel Brown Jr. picks up 3 fouls trying to keep Jalen Lowe in front of him, keep Otega Oweh in front of him? What does it look like for Sananda Frew if, he's trying to guard Garrison out on the perimeter, flying around, he gets a little bit tired, and he picks up 2-3 fouls. And now the Louisville Cardinal, the lineup out there is, Woolley, Conwell, McNeely, Hadley, and Khalifa. Well, now that's a much different. Now there's not much rim protection out there. Now you can see Kentucky get to the rim a little bit more. So my X factor for Louisville is that rim protection and staying out of foul trouble, because Louisville might have the better shooters, the higher volume shooters, but Kentucky's going to get to the rim pretty much as they want here.
Speaking of like defensive elements, Kentucky finished top 20-ish last year in 3-point defense. So I think that's clearly something where wonder what it looks like with this particular team. Obviously, no Lamont Butler. That you have to mention that. We all remember the game he had last year against them, but like defensively, I think that's something too. How do they guard in this kind of game? Like you mentioned, Louisville potentially being one of the best shooting teams out there. And so I think that's probably an early storyline. And I'm also going to bring up what Brian mentioned here too, and we haven't really said his name, but like I think this is clearly something as well. Like it's the JQ effect. It is the what does it look like, in this game right here. And that's where like we'll know by then, hey, this guy's fully ready. He's good to go. And that obviously changes things in terms of as you're looking at, rotations and his role and all that. And so and that's why we're having fun with this. It's July. This game is played in November. But like we're having fun with all these theories and possibilities. But it is kind of fun to look at and say, man, there are a lot of ways a game like this could play out. But what we do know is these are two top 10 type teams coming into the season. There's no question, just based on the odds and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of the biggest matchups of the season, which Louisville, Kentucky always is a big matchup, but this is from just a national scale and looking ahead. Like, this is a huge game for both teams.
We'll also be able to tell pretty quickly, like, how big of a difference Lamont Butler being the steady hand of the law, just kind of calming everything down and being, ultra consistent with the rock. What does that look like if, the place is going wild? McNeely just made a 3, then Conwell made a 3, then Mikel Brown Jr. hits it, heat check, and Kentucky's got to have a few clean, solid possessions with Lamont Butler running the show. How does that look? There's going to be, I think it's great they're playing this, both teams. We'll be able to learn, is Frew ready for the big time starting 5? Can he play 30 minutes a game? We'll learn with Mikel Brown. I know that one knock on Brown is that he doesn't get to the rim as much as some people would like. So, what happens if Mikel Brown's having an off night from outside and the rim rate's not there for Louisville? And, live and die by the 3. What if they're kind of dying? What does Louisville turn to if the 3s aren't falling? You're going to be able to learn so much in the second Tuesday of the year. This is fantastic.
It will be, and obviously we'll talk a lot more about it as we get closer. This was kind of our game of the week in terms of looking ahead, non-conference matchups in the SEC. We said we're going to do one of these every week. If you missed it last week, we talked about Florida and Arizona. Don't worry. If you're watching this within, this 1 hour and 20-minute live show we've done here, we are going to cut these into separate videos on the channel. So You'll get to go back and kind of just watch our specific thoughts on Kentucky-Louisville, Florida-Arizona, way too early, and all of that stuff. So we will take a look at those, more of these games, as we said, moving forward. Max, I'm going to make an executive decision on next week's game. Are you ready? I think we do Arkansas-Duke because we've already kind of teed it up on this particular show. That game is played, as we said, on Thanksgiving. I think it'd be kind of fun to look way ahead to Arkansas-Duke, unless there's another game that you want to consider, but I think that's one. It'd be fun to look at just a basketball matchup standpoint this early for those two. So,
yeah, you're not going to have to ask me twice.
All right, guys, we're out of here. An extra large edition of the Tuesday show here. It's July, and we just talked an hour and 22 minutes about SEC basketball, and 350 plus of you have been doing the same here with us. So that shows you guys are locked in, just like our friends at ROKFORM. The Rock Lock there, you're locked into SEC basketball, and we'll have more discussion coming, as you know, for our members. We'll have something this week. Don't know what day yet, but we will have something up for members this week that we'll do there. So be sure to hit that join button. You can see the link at the top of the comments section. There's the link to join, become a member here at Southeastern 16. Of course, you've seen all our football previews going up. Lots more football previews on the way for every single team. So a lot of those already up on the channel. We'll have more coming soon. And yeah, there you go.
Like, I'm not sure how many Cats way too early previews are even possible, but we just did Louisville. They've also got Michigan State, North Carolina, the Zags, Indiana, St. John's. Yeah, more coming.
So what you're saying is we're probably going to hit Kentucky several times during this run up to November, where we will look at some Kentucky matchups. But yeah, they have a pretty loaded schedule, as we said. Some other teams do as well. Arkansas has a pretty exciting schedule. Big games for Alabama and Auburn as usual. So like we'll hit on a lot of these. So we'll give it some thoughts. Tennessee too. So there you have it. All right, we're out of here. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on your way out. Helps the channel. And we'll talk to you soon here at Southeastern 16.